we provide the in this code we have the two kind of different rendering. So Ratish, do you have the now you have the clear about the rendering?
That's rendering.
So how we are doing the rendering and what are the properties which you are passing with this? Everything is clear, as which I am assuming.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Mahesh, you also have the clear. Okay. Good. So now I'll just tell you the basic scenario for how, again I'm repeating how actually this process is completely going on. First we have the content panel. On the top of the content panel we are loading the grid. In the grid have the grid view. In the grid view, if we are not setting any different kind of views, it take the default grid view is the whatever we are passing the column configuration and loading the columns on the basis of the stored which we passed it. So any kind of a store is required to load the informations. Okay, once everything is done, then on top once that will done, only after that we need to pass the rendering on the basis of our data, what the data and how it need to be displayed. So the rendering will comes on that. So that is the same with the both, like it maybe the GXT version is 2.3 and it's GXT 3.0. So there is no much difference is only the tightly coupled and the loosely coupled, and how we are creating the column config and how we are correlating with our existing model. So this is the complete scenario which we discuss about that one. So this is the basic. Okay, now we are going further regarding the some different grids. I am taking some good examples from the Sencha, because now next I am going with the grouping grid. Why I am going to grouping grid? Because whenever our application is going to be loaded, on that time we have the basic heat map in a grouping grid. So first we will discuss about the existing grouping grid. Existing, I mean to say the previous one, 2.3 grid. Okay, there is no, as per the UI wise, there is no much a difference. Here you can see this is from the 2.3.1. What is the difference between the grouping grid and the normal grid is our records and rows will be grouped on the basis of this option. Here we can expand and collapse our number of records, because where is it more useful is, suppose I have in my office I have the 4 departments, like one is sales, marketing, IT and otherwise the supervisor. So I need the records on the basis of these 4 categories. And in our heat map also we have the clusters on the basis of the different racks. So we are getting the information in a different group forms. The same here also be. So again there is no much a difference as per the UI wise, it's have that difference. So again I am calling the previous scenario. You just look at and understand where is the difference. Okay. Here also we have the container, which is containing the grid. Here also we have the grid. In the grid again we have the store. These 3 things are the same for all the grids. Even here also you can pass any kind of renderer. The difference comes here is the view. The previous example as we saw, there have the default view. Where have the only simple columns. Here also we have the simple column, but the difference is here the records, whatever the store which is coming from the data which is coming from the server, our view is going to be grouped on the basis of the records. And how we are going to be grouping, that we will discuss in our next couple of minutes. But I just want to clear you, all the changes are going to happen only on the view layer of the grid. As I already discussed you, grid, on the grid have the view, and on the view have our data. On top of data have the render. So now I think so you have the clear picture of the different layers of the data. Clear? So first I am looking to the legacy code. Here I have the source. You didn't find so much differences over here. Here also be the same, have the different column configs. Here I have the store. Our store is grouping store. So here you can customize your classes on the basis of, but for now we have the grouping grid. Okay, here we have the grouping store. Why we need the grouping store? For the basics, we just need the simple store. Any kind of store we can use it. Like suppose here which store we are using. Just give me 1 minute. Yeah, for the stack we are using, but for the grouping we need to use the grouping store. The store type which is have because whenever we are going to be implement the grouping grid, that time we need to use the grouping store. So our store type is the type of grouping store, and there on what basis we are going to group, because here there is one more option is group by field. If you are selecting on the price basis, the complete grouping is happening on the basis of the price. So here you can on the basis of change, on the basis of last update. But currently our by default grouping is happening through the company name. So in the code you can see here, so store.add grouping store. So by default test data dot get companies. So on the basis of companies we are going to be grouped by the industry. So different industry, on the basis of that we are going to be grouping. Okay, after that we have as per the sequence wise we have the different column configuration on the basis of different columns. Okay, so we have the name, the company, price, change, industry, and last updated. These are the columns. So in the again we have the list column config. Again we are adding all.
Is there only one thing we have to do, that grouping store? This is
first,
the only difference.
there are so many other differences. I'll one by one I'll tell you all the differences. The first difference is we need to create the grouping store, and there we need to specify on what basis we are going to grouping, on which field, on which stream we are going to be. Okay, that is clear. Now the second thing is, again we need to create the column model which contains your all list of column configuration. So this CM is containing this list of column config. Clearly it's a list of column config, and this CM is passing to the grid, and this is store, at the store grouping store we are passing into the grid. So till here everything is fine. Again we are creating, and between this the main part is this. Now you can have the clarity. We need the grouping store and we need the grouping view. Two things are required whenever we are going to create any grouping grid. What is it doing is, this view is a show group column. So these are the property, we are forcefully fitting this one, and here you can render your grid grouping setting. Because whenever you are going to be grouping, in the grouping you can look at the UI, how you need to do the grouping, this row is coming and what color you need to set, and what the properties will come at this positions. So all the things are going to happening over here. So here directly we are getting the creating the new grid group render. Previously we have the grid cell render. Now you see the difference. if we are doing the rendering only on a single cell, we need to use a grid cell render. But now here what we are doing is we are doing the rendering for the complete group, then we are using the grid group renderer. This is the what we call is abstract, no, so abbreviation classes, no? So here we are creating the instance and we are using in that have the renderer method, but it's not containing the multiple properties, it containing the complete group column data, and on from that we can get our field like data.field and the header and column by id. So we'll get the f, and on the basis dot model dot size equals to 1 the item and items, on the basis of like this is going to be displayed like this. For the one record we are displaying the item, and if the more than one, it's we are displaying the items. Okay, so this kind of rendering, where is it happening in when we are creating the group on the basis of the grid group renderer. So the finally we are returning this grouping heading on the basis of group data group, and after that model size, and after that the item, otherwise items. So it will return your grouping heading. We are rendering this one. By default it's just put the grid and there is no name otherwise. So here we are, and the most important thing here, you just concentrate, this view is going to added into the grid. This view is added here. So grid, we created the instance grid, we applied the store and column data, the column model, and after that this grid dot set view. Now you have the clarity. First is grid, after that I have view, on top of that view we are going to set. Even we can clear the grid view, we can apply the another view on that one. So this method is have the main role in GXT 2.3. I'm talking about that one. And after that, whatever the properties which can. And once we have ready with the grid, that grid can be added into our content panel. In this content panel, finally we are added somewhere, yes, here, panel.add grid, and this content panel is added into our layout container. So whenever we are creating the grouping grid, what are the two differences is, one is the grid store and grouping store, and another one is
grouping grid
render is for the rendering, main is grid view.
view.
Only view will make a different for the like creating the grouping kind of UI. So now you have the clarity how is the heat map is going to prepare. Data is coming, and at the client we are creating this grid kind of grid, and data is loaded into the our store, and store is internally communicating with that, and we are rendering on a different colors. So this is the scenario of GXT 2.3 grouping grid. Clear? Yes. Now we'll look at in the GXT 3.0.
And in simple, we don't have any view kind of thing, right? Just normally simple thing.
Yes. That time we no need, because that is a simple one. And when is it required is, suppose the view is required only when you have the very huge data at server. You call the RPC, you getting the data from the server, but meanwhile what happening is, first your component will be rendered. After that you are going to call the server, get the data, then loaded the server. So that time what you need to do is grid dot get view, on view just pass the loading message. So view will show you the loading message. Once the view will get the complete rendered value, only then you will remove your loading message and data will be appear. So now you got the usability of the view. So all operation will be happening on the grid view mostly. It's depend, again I am saying it's depend as per the functionality. So now I am going to the censure GXT
here
tree.
all the places
Yes.
where will be you are doing the fetch part.
The data loading part.
Yeah.
Not here. They are not. We are not doing in this example, but
But we are seeing that the
data is coming. But
coming, right?
this
So-
is the code snippet, but the data loading part is not. Actually, your store is store will like it's the kind of that whenever we are creating the grid, and that time we are passing the store, okay, and we need to create a init widget. On the init widget time, we need to call the rpc service, and that time your store will be updated on the basis of rpc service. Otherwise, I'll show you in my laptop how the data is going to be loaded. Sure. Okay. So I'm going to. Do I need to pause this?
Okay, that
Okay, from this.
okay, sure. Get data, set data.
Set data. Even for the.
Set data, there is nothing. Whatever the result will come.
No. For this also be you can do one thing at the starting. There is no requirement to create RPC proxy. No requirement. That is only once you want to be the automate the things. Here, what you can do is at the starting, once your class will be initiated, that time you call the one RPC, get the data, and that data you can directly pass to this store, and store will automatically update to your grid. That is what you are expecting.
What we have there, no?
Yes.
We have one method as grid.fetch data.
This is also be it's the add data.
No,
Grid
they
dot
have,
add.
they have that default configuration saying add fetch data. There is one method saying okay, you will do on fetch of the load, or you want manually. If
Okay.
you set it manually, you have to call that fetch on whenever you require. And there is one method as on module load.
Yes, there also we have on module loader.
That's for the first time. But there another we have.
On renderer.
No, there is like as a grid data loaded.
Okay.
Once that data is loaded to the grid, then we will be getting that handler, and whatever we need that render part, what you are doing it here, that time we are doing there.
Okay. So
That's
like the
different, yeah.
concepts are same, but implementation perspectives are different. Okay. Yes. So that's why. So here also be the same. The grid view is added into the grid. So whatever the new grid. So this now we need to look at into our GXT 3.0.
Yeah.
So already we know the difference. First difference is our column config. And again, column config, if I have the column config difference, so that the same need to be retained with the, like here also you can see, yes, column config, and again all the things are almost same, not much difference. The main difference is only the column configuration. Apart from that, you can say grouping view also set into the view, and we are doing everything on the basis of the same way. There is no much difference. Again, I want to add one more thing is, just a minute, give me 1 second. So here one more difference is in the last version we are tightly coupled with the only group store.
Yeah.
Remember? Yes.
But here nothing.
Grouping store. It's loosely coupled. So the store is in the form of list store. So list store can be directly bind with your grid. So internally the type is and the on the basis of the model data. So now you have the clarity what are the differences in the new version and the older version. So here they are making more generic more usable and reuse the business logics. So here first difference is list store and the grouping store. Second is then the second is the general for the column config, which is completely changed for all the grids. So that is also be the same here. So here also be the column config and for the different columns. Now one thing I want to be add over here is, just a minute, the rendering part is here have quite a different. I think they didn't add in this one, but I want to add that one. That is also with the comes into. I think in this example they didn't mention any kind of rendering. Just a minute. No, I think no, they didn't mention us. Otherwise we can do the rendering also, and we can do the rendering also. But I just need to check. All are do on the column grouping view level. I think those are both the same. Okay, again I'll once again I'll look at, and in the next sessions I'll tell you how we can do the rendering also. I think so that is the same. That's why they didn't added in this. And even as you already know about me, I didn't do much work on this. Maybe that's why. So you have the clarity in this how we are doing that one. So grouping store and the list store, there is no difference. Difference is only the grid view. Grid view here also we are using the grid view. On the basis of the grid view we are providing the grouping things. So here we can, even for the group, even again we are using the grid view. So in the grid view we can pass our renderer grid group data, and in that one have the same scenario which we have the renderer method. There have the grouping column data, the like grid group renderer and group data. So it's the same thing we can use with this.
But without rendering that same theme and all it's coming up, right?
Actually they just put the code snippet. Even they didn't put the RPC mechanism. They are just giving example. Okay, you just follow this one and create that, and after that
Different rendered output. That at the top, that grouping they have made, right? What? In 2.3. Okay.
No, here also
we have that same thing.
Here, that's why they are using the same.
See, that the top, whatever is showing.
Okay, number of records. Even
records and all. Here it is not showing.
Not. That's why they don't. Otherwise they will. That will come. So
one item, two items.
That is not coming because they are not used the
rendering. Yes. Even if we use, then it will comes like this.
Yeah.
One item, two item. So these by default it's coming on the basis of the industry names, and again if we want to do some additional rendering, then we can do that. Only on the grouping data, grid grouped databases. So this is how your grouping grid will work. So this is how.
That is where we show site and bracket 36 clusters. No?
Yes, exactly. In our clusters, we have the grouping, and there we have the rendering. The data first from the grid we will get the data and we'll render it.
All the columns also we are
setting the color. Color also we all are rendering. That color rendering is the grid cell rendering, column config. That is part of the column config, and that is the grid cell like grouping grid renderer.
The one is grouping grid render for getting the
number count, yes,
and another is cell
grid cell column config, yes. And one more thing, I think in the last example I missed is in the basic grid, which which with the disconnected. I want to tell you one more thing, is that is the most important thing. You can just look at over here. Come here. This is for GXT 3.0 and how the rendering is performing in the GXT 3.0. As I told you, in the 2.6 rendering on the basis of the complete grids, like grid cell rendering, and here I can tell you one, the difference is here set cell. See the difference. Again I'm opening the basic grid rendering. Here I have the grid cell renderer, and this change goes to the column config. Okay, but here the difference is grid set cell, not the cell renderer. Here if you see, the method name is the column config instance dot set renderer, and the instance of that renderer. But here what we are doing is this one, abstract cell. This abstract cell is providing the functionality of lightweight pattern. So here we are not setting the set render, here are the set cell, and this abstract cell class have the renderer method. Now you have the clarity. And in this one, this renderer method, we are passing the context. From the context we are get the value directly we are passing the value. Otherwise prior we are passing the property and model, both the things. Here we directly passing the value, and on the basis of the value comparison we are applying the styles. Otherwise what we need to do is get the model, from the model we need to get the value, on the basis of the value we need to do the operation. The two steps are completely removed, and here the abstract cell will removing the creating of multiple instances. Whether clarity na? Okay. So once you get this directly, you can get the styles, and after that you last one previously, as I told you, we are returning the new instance. Here we are not returning. That is the main difference. That is why we are not creating the new instance. We are safe HTML handler. As I told you, GXT 3.0 is supporting the safe HTML. So the safe HTML is updating that particular cell. So here is the sb.append HTML content. So the new content comes into this span part. So previously if we are returning this one, it goes to the new instance, and that new instance is getting updated into the grid, and grid becomes much heavy. So now is the concept is clear. How the rendering is happening in the GXT 3.0? How is it happening in the 2.3 and 3.0? So I know you cannot remember all the methods, and so for that continuously looking into the APIs, so you will get okay how we need to do. Otherwise take the reference from the Sencha and we can implement in a very such a good manner. So the context, the value, and the sub, and now this time there is no number of much parameters for the render. There are three arguments which are more meaningful. On this abstract cell is giving the lightweight functionality. Excuse me. So have the clarity in this. So again I'm going to the grouping grid also. So for the GXT 3.0, if you are applying any kind of rendering will be performed through the set cell, not through the set renderer. So renderer will be applied with the abstract cell, and in that one I have the renderer method, and then after we need to do the operations. This is how the complete things. Clear? So now what I want is we discussed about the two kind of grids, and there are so many grids. Again I'll look at one more grid is live grid. That is another most important. And after that we will select the paging grid. I think so these four are more than enough. Later if you mostly they have the minor changes, and because if we have the basic concepts are cleared, later we can use any kind of grid. So now next I'll discuss two more grids and compare with the older version and how we need to use with the new version. So we'll start with the live grid. Okay, yeah, just a minute. Okay, so as we have a plan for the next couple of two new grid we will discuss in this one. The first one is the live grid. So a first look of the live grid for the GXT 2.3. If you doesn't feel much difference, but once you'll going to be scroll this one, then you'll really realize the actual difference, because this time it will load the starting 1 to 8 records, but the overall records are these numbers of records. These are the display records. If you count, these numbers of record are displaying, and the some of them are also be at the in the scroll, but not all the records are downloaded at the client side. This is useful only when we have the multiple records and user need to, that is like on demand only, that will be loaded at the client side. Without that it will not be loaded. Like suppose I am going the downside and you look at it, will you get this loading message. Why is it coming? Because it again goes to the server and get the data and then come to the client. So one, it is very fast process, it doesn't take much time. And now here you can see this 2664 to 2671, that these number of records are going to be displaying, and rest of them are at the we didn't fetch from the server. So it will fetch only the required data and the display location. So whenever we are sending this to the server, that time the grid configuration also be goes to the server, because ultimately we need to intimate you to server what number of records is required. So it will send only those in, not the complete record. So this is how again we are going on top, so the data will be loaded on that manner. So for this, in between I have one proxy will direct continuously communicating with the server and get the data. This is the UI, have the same functionality in the GXT 3.0 also. There is no much difference here. You can see the same the live grid functionality is all where have the same. Even recently Yahoo also be using the same live grid in their mail. So this is more as per the look wise and the functionality wise is more good, because it's continuously the communication. So now the thing is how we need to implement this one in our code. That is the most important. We are sitting here only for to discuss about that one. So here now we'll come into the code, and the same thing again we need to create the grid, pass the store, and that store is depend on the what kind of information we need to load it, and our column model, and one by one we will discuss all these things. Okay, so it's again we have the column config. In the column config we need to pass what kind of columns and what are the information need to be done, and we applied some render. So this is our list store, so the same which we are using over here. And after that we have the different column config, list of column config, and this column is containing all the informations which is in the column config. And then finally this is all the same. This is all the same as the previously we discussed about the grid. So as per concept wise, still there is no difference. Here you can see this, the content panel is directly added the grid, and in the grid have the store and our column data, column model. And again we need to do the changes in the previously we are using the grouping grid view, you remember? But here we need to use which view is live grid view.
Okay.
Because this is as I told you, all the operation will be happen on the view layer. So here the actual, and this grid dot set view and this one. So here we need to we can set multiple properties over here. So set row height, what is the size is required, row height is required. If any record is available, what message need to be displayed. So here we can pass that message also be. So even because most of the time if server communication is not be stable, like after some time the server is disconnected, so that time we need to show some message user like for user communication wise. But now the difference comes over here. The main difference is how continuously it's communicate with the server. Leave it about this URL, and in this place you can assume we have an RPC mechanism, and even as I told you the RPC proxy, through that we can communicate with this. So here we are using the scripting tag proxy. There are so many different kind of proxies. In this example using the scripting proxy, otherwise we can use the RPC proxy. In the RPC proxy, what we can do is we pass this one, or what we call is the callback method. And in the callback method, we are just directly communicating with the RPC, and RPC will communicate with our client side proxy. So proxy and the client side proxy will communicate with our loader, and loader will load the data. So I think this is not be the suitable example for us. I'll go with the new one, GXT 3.0. There have the more clarity, because ultimately we need to work on, like here you can see, here we have the RPC proxy. You can see here RPC proxy, and the instance of the proxy is this one, and inside have this load method. So this load method will take care to what number of records need to be loaded. How many records? The 8, and in that one we are passing the load configurations. So this is the page load configuration. So it will always contain the information of your current paginations. Okay, how many records are going to be displayed and from which number to which number. So, and after that, if we'll come little bit down, here you can see we have the one loader, paging loader. Okay, and paging loader is going to be communicated with this proxy. So whatever the data comes, and this grid loader will load into our grid, and in the grid we are attaching this loader. Yeah, somewhere have the set loader. I know. Yeah, here have the set loader for this view. Like a grid name is, we created the view. In the view we are going to be add this loader. Again, for this live grid we need the same live grid view, and in there we can set the renderer. For the column configuration, all are the same as per the other column configuration. So all these things are same, but the difference is through the RPC mechanism. Here it is slightly, like we can say, on the basis of on demand, the data will be loaded. So we can make the same one. Here my service instance is this, and this is my method. Okay, so this is my RPC call, and in the load we have the load configuration need to pass the server, and this is the callback, and this proxy will directly pass to the paging loader. So this is for this functionality almost same for paging grid and the live grid. Paging grid also be when we are moving to the next page, only that time the on demand call is happening.
There only I think the difference is the view.
Yes.
And you are
Loading here all the operation on the basis of the current look, on the basis of the scroll. There, once you are moving from one page to another page, again we need to send this load configuration. Load configuration all contain only all the informations.
for that page.
Yes, for the current page. Okay, where we are, the actual situation. So, and here in this case, in this scenario, you really understand the sorting, this remote sort. At the starting, as I told you, the remote sorting. If we want to apply those sorting, we need that one, the remote sort. If when I think we don't have in this one. Otherwise, I'll show you some more other examples. There, how we are going to be apply the sorting at the server side. Yeah.
No, in the UI, show me what is the remote sort.
Remote sort, like here. Currently, I didn't load the complete data. I don't have at the client side. We don't have the complete data. But when I click on this sorting, by default, on the basis of some sorting is already applied over here. Otherwise, data is coming in sorted. Otherwise, if we are not loading, okay, as the model is loaded, we are putting all the data over here. That is unlike the normal sorting. There is no sorting is applied. But once you are applying over here for other basic grids, it will provide the default grid sorting. That is the string sort. String on the basis of the string sorting is applied. And why there have the data is at the client side. But here we have the server communications. We are continuously communicating with the server. So the complete data is not at the client side. Then how we need to do the sort? For this, we need the remote sort. Through that remote sort, we are providing this sorting mechanism. Okay, so this is the same for paging grid also, which I'm more familiar with these grids. And there are so many other grids. There also we have some functionality, but I don't know. So once we'll start and using more grids, so we'll be used to for that. So this is the code for the paging live grid, and then the live grid, and I as I told you, need to create the proxy which will communicate with the server, and proxy will communicate with the loader, and loader will take care for all these operations, and loader will be attached with the grid. And for the live grid, we need to the live grid view. For the view is have the difference. So all these three things you need to keep in mind whenever we are creating the live grid, and whenever we are going to be implementing in our product. So this is how we have the live grid will work. Now the next I am moving to the paging grid. So first I'll show you with the old one. Then after we'll look at into the GXT 3.0. Here you can see here, this is the navigation bar. Here once you click on the next page and end of the page, otherwise you can refresh your whole records. So for this, GXT provides one navigation toolbar for the paging grid. So that's also we need to add into the view. So again I'm telling, everything will be added into the view. So we'll look at the code. So this is the basic. I think view wise you don't have any problem. So again for this also be I think yes. Here we need the paging loader. Like there have also be the paging loader, and loader will be communicated with this proxy as I told you. So here for the proxy wise, here creating the page mode memory proxy, not the RPC proxy. So it depends. Again, as I'm telling, here we have the direct data. If you have the direct data, then you can directly use the paging model memory proxy. It means to say is this get stocks have the complete data. But which one is best? Your needful data will be downloaded at the client. This time all the data will come, and only we are providing the navigation of the pages. Okay, na? So with this scenario, otherwise in this place you can use, there are many proxies for this is the one proxy, RPC proxy, URL proxy, and there are so many different. If you look into the GXT, so there you will find so many different proxies to communicating with the server. Four kind of proxies. Otherwise I'll find out and I'll tell you definitely. Don't worry.
Okay.
So again have this loader, and loader will be placed into the grid. So all the rest of the things are almost the same. There is no difference. Again we have the grid cell render because this is the older version. So here everything. Loader dot load. Here you can specify the number of records will be displayed at the first